So welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your week to join us. I'm just going to kick things off by giving you a quick run through of some of the new features of our website, which we launched earlier last month. So we've had quite a busy sort of lead up to the launch, and I just want to talk through some new features with you tonight. So first up, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we've refreshed our design. Our core aim was to try and make the site more user-friendly and welcoming to both members and newcomers interested in learning more about the sport. So we've introduced things to prevent endless scrolling, which you found a lot on our website. We've introduced new things like content blogs with direct links and buttons to pages. And this really helps us to get across the messages that we want for our members to sort of click through and link through, and newcomers also. You, our members, and potential prospective people that are visiting the website have helped us form how we shaped the navigation panels. So we looked at our analytics and made sure that the pages that you're accessing the most are more prominent. But moreover, we know that there's a need to put our sport on a pedestal, give it a better profile. So we wanted to tidy up the design of the website to ensure that we're using it as a marketing and promotional tool to help encourage newcomers to come and find out more about us and why they should join us. Secondly, based on the feedback we'd received from clubs, we wanted to introduce a new area where members could access key resources on things like club development, tips on promoting their club, and most importantly, ready to use or modifiable resources. We know it can be extremely time consuming creating things like flyers and social media cards and other digital means to promote your club's events and activities. And that's why we've introduced our new digital content hub, which is filled with the designs that are ready to use, but also ones that are modifiable by yourselves. You are welcome to also enlist our help, although we know that there is a kind of scale historically with our clubs. There's clubs that don't have the time and the resource or the manpower to sort of generate said resources, and there's ones that are flying and they want to know more about how to track their analytics and things like that. So we were trying to sort of cater for all parties with that. Whichever path you decide to take and whatever status in terms of marketing and promotion you're at within your club, remember we're here to support you. I'm always here. You can drop me a direct email. My email's on the website, or you can email marketing@britishorienteering.org.uk, and the email will be included in the slides. And last but not least, one of our main reasons for refreshing the design is we wanted to split up some of the content that we started to share. So back in March 2023, we started to kind of section off news stories as blogs. And this content is all received from members, clubs, people that are organising major events. And we've found that this Spotlight blog series has been incredibly popular. It's visible in the analytics, in the amount of clicks we get when we share it on social media and in the newsletters. And so we really wanted to create a separate section on the site that highlighted this. So let's have a look around. So I'm just going to come back out and go into the website. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. If you haven't, the key changes are that we've implemented 2 navigational bars. So there's quick links up here to the search function, a new shop feature, information on how to join us. There's plenty more information on there that sort of highlights where you can find out about membership discounts, the different types of membership we offer. And then the new to orienteering tab, explaining what orienteering is, and resources that prospective participants and members can find out more about our sport and their local club. And then you've got the members login, We've updated our drop downs on the main navigational bar as well. So there's lots more to find out about ways to get involved in orienteering. You will see the blogs here. So this is what I was just talking about, a very popular Spotlight blog series. Lots of resources for you to take advantage of, including webinars. And then the member and club hub, the Great Britain squad tab, where you can find out all about current selections and squad news, meet the team, and about us. So I'm going to go back to this tab here. Note that I'm viewing the website at the moment as a non-member. So if we go to this tab, this is where you'll find the new club and membership toolkit. And this is where the resources that I was discussing are available. So we've incorporated some of the old ones like club development, bits from promoting your club, introduced the new digital content hub, and then information on inclusion, volunteering, and our annual awards. So I'm going to go into promoting your club because I just want to show you that as a non-member, you can view a kind of window shop of what is available if you're joining and you're fully fledged wanting to join orienteering and you want to help promote the sport. Once you start to go within these sections a little bit deeper, you'll be invited to log in as a member. So I'll just log in. And then you'll be able to start viewing the resources that are available. So there's lots to look through. I'll come back at the end to talk about sort of the next phase of the website and how we intend to look at things going forward. But you'll see there's lots of resources that have happened, that have been taken place, webinars that have taken place over the past 6 months or so that we've sort of incorporated into this section. More information for people that are a little bit, clubs that are a little bit more advanced and actually want to use paid marketing and track their analytics and things like that. Just lots of resources. And now you'll notice the navigation slightly changed because I'm logged in as a member now, but you can still find all those resources that are available in that drop down via this tab here in the club and membership toolkit. So I'm going to move to the digital content hub now, which is where you'll find social media card templates, posters and leaflets, QR code stickers, and the image gallery. So I'll just go into social media cards. Again, apologies if you have already looked through this and you know exactly what to expect to see. This is for the people that maybe haven't. So it gives you a rundown of everything that you need to know about what these cards are for. Some of them are ready to use. So, for example, you could download this one for Instagram, for example, straight away, and that will come up. And then you can just simply save it as a image to your documents and upload it ready to use. And then there's also an option to download blank templates. So, for example, if I want to download a blank template for Facebook or Twitter, you can download that there. And then you can just slot your own image in to the side of that in Canva. I'm not going to go through the whole tutorial of how to edit things in Canva because we've already done a video on that and we've got a PDF. I will say, though, if you have already tried and you were expecting to go through a full-fledged run through, like I said, after the webinar, please do get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to run through it with you in a separate occasion. So those are the sort of core ones. They're quite generic, and then they sort of get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of promoting your club and activities. So you've got template cards for all kinds of events, urban orienteering events, night orienteering events, map run events, club events. We anticipate this one to be quite popular because it's just if you download the template, it's just literally got the tabs and you can just slot an image to the back there and add in your own text within a Canva document. So that's the social media cards. And then I'm going to move on to posters and leaflets. So again, we've already had people contacting us about these. We can either edit them for you with the text. It's usually quite a quick turnaround depending on how busy the team is. But I say the team, it's me that will be editing them, but it's usually a very quick turnaround. It does sort of depend on how busy I am, but usually it's just updating the text. So I'm able to do that for you as well. And these are just some examples of what we can sort of help you produce or that you can edit. So there's our posters and leaflets, and go on. Some examples of what clubs have already done in the past as well. We've just refreshed them. And then we've got QR code stickers. So these are great if you are looking for something free to sort of hand out at events. So you can print these. You'll need to get the sticker paper if that's what you want. But they're small little cards that you can just hand out at your events, and then you can add your own QR code to the QR code to this template, and people can just scan them and they go straight to your website to find out more about your club and the sport in general. So we decided to add those in. And then finally, we've got the image gallery, which is just we're filling it with lots of images from the recent ones, so from major events. So we've done loads from the Sprints weekend, which was the most recent major event. We anticipate to upload images as and when they become available, and again with time constraints, because it can be quite a process of labeling them up and getting the credits in there. You will see when you click in, it does say credit Rob Lines. Rob has kindly given us permission to use these rights free, so credit him if you feel you want to. It's when you see where it says, there will be a box underneath that says copyright, which is when you need to credit the person, if that makes sense. But yeah, if I just wanted to download this image, again, just hit download and the image is there ready for you to save and use across your own promotional and marketing means. And then you'll notice that there's different tags, so you can click into those or up here, and you just see lots of photos that you could potentially use to promote anytime orienteering. And again, it's just about providing that resource. I know firsthand how it feels to go through slides and slides of images that have just come in from an event. We've tried to incorporate both clubs into this, but also kept heavily in mind, I will admit, clubs that, people from clubs that are not necessarily in club kit, so that they can be used across the board for everyone, if that makes sense. But yes, if you go into tabs like major events, you will see loads of people in club kit and winners. So do have a scroll through those. As I said, this will grow over time, and depending on how much it grows, we might alter how it looks. There might be more tabs, for example, more categories. But for the moment, in phase one, we feel like it's in a good space. And that's just what I wanted to show you around the main website. So those are the sort of new features. I'm just going to share, this is more for in your own time. Here's the quick links if you ever get lost. For members, anything like quick links to the things that I've just shown you. We know that the website can be a bit of a maze sometimes. We obviously have tried to simplify it as much as possible without deleting or getting rid of pages that our members do access. And there's some links to some tutorial and how-to guides there, and just some key pages to share with newcomers. So in terms of next steps, now that the refreshed site has been launched, it's our aim to keep it up to date with revised resources and content. For that, we need your help. So we welcome your insight into the small wins and the big ones within your clubs. And it goes back to the blogs, I can't stress how much reach we've had with the blogs, via the newsletter and social media. People are interested, people want to know, they want to learn from other clubs and how to aspire to get to where they're at. So it's really valuable. And even if you're a smaller club and you feel like you're less established than another club, please don't feel that you are. Any small win is a big win to us. So we know that you work extremely hard, and we want to reflect that across our marketing and comms and help you promote your club and the hard work that goes into running it. So send us your images, summaries of your events, and why you want to shout about them. We've got the reach, so use us to help you elevate your audience. Explore the new resources and templates available to you. We've created them with you in mind, so go and use them. And if you need any help, that's the email address I was mentioning, the marketing at one. And finally, help us review and renew. So if you've got any ideas, share them. We're a small team, but we'll always consider constructive feedback on ways we can keep improving things and the resources that we provide within it. And I'll just close by saying a big thank you to anyone that has experienced any glitches since the relaunch, especially in the first week or two. We can oversee a proportion of things and a certain proportion of things and update them, but the majority do fall on things like our database and the updates within it. So I just wanted to thank you for your patience and also for flagging any issues with us. We've worked really hard to resolve them as quickly as we can, to make things as seamless as possible. But if you do notice anything along your travels on the website, just email info@British Orienteering and a member of the team will be in touch with you. So yeah, I will stop sharing now and take any questions if there are any. Doesn't look like it in the Q&A.
Excellent, you beat me to it. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A, or you can use the raise hand function, which either should be on the top as just a raise hand or in the reactions menu. You may be off the hook, but if you do think of any during the next session that spring to mind, I will put Alex back at the firing line just for you lot at the end again. I can see somebody's typing, so I will hold on for a minute. But quickly until then, oh no, it's just a positive message from Joanna just saying that she appreciated your help last week, Alex. I think that was a muted thank you. Perfect. So if you have no questions at this point, then I'll hand over to Kate for the next section of this on local partnerships and recruiting newcomers.
Yes, I shall share my screen. Again, if you can give me a heads up if it's worked or not, that'll be great. It's taking its time. There we go. Can we see that?
Looking good.
Excellent. Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say a big well done to Alex. Behind the scenes, you might not have known, but it's been a real kind of labour of love, the new website. It's probably 10 months worth of work that's gone on behind the scenes, a lot of invested time and resources to bring it up to scratch, to make it a lot easier, as we've mentioned, for our partners to use. And we're definitely seeing some fantastic kind of relationships being built between clubs and ourselves now. As Alex said, you know, we are more than happy to share, you know, good news, good work, be it big or small. And I think we've seen a real kind of drive in this in the past 18 months, in the past 2 years. And I hope it's evident to clubs as well. You know, us being able to shout about these things hopefully encourages other clubs. And we've seen kind of a bit like a rolling moss effect, really, with clubs taking on board social media and the power of social media. And it's highly unlikely these days that clubs don't have Instagrams and Facebook pages and are active on them. And even if you wind back 2 years, that wasn't the process, that wasn't the case at all. So it's absolutely fantastic, that our clubs are also stepping up into help us change change the perception of the sport as well. So linking on with that, as you can see from the title, understanding influential partnerships. This is really born out of the work that we've started in the past 3 years, really, with the Find Your Way project, which was funded by Sport England to reach out to communities that hadn't experienced orienteering, were less active, didn't have much access to local activity, their local green spaces, and initially started as a school-based project. But as the project kind of ran along, we quickly established that for us to fulfill the needs of the project and to reach as many people as we can, schools were important, but communities were even more important. And within that, I think it's been obvious to us the importance of certain organisations that you might not have come across before. I know definitely there's many clubs that once they've started working with these communities that have been within the Find Your Way project have seen the benefits that it brings, not only in kind of awareness of the sport and the club within the local area and the local partnerships, but also with stuff like permissions, getting to know the right people in the right places at local authorities, etc. So there might be some people, there might be some organisations on this tonight that you might not have heard of before, or you might have had an inkling about, and that's the kind of the reasoning behind this section, to just try and kind of break down the barriers of who these people are and how they can be a benefit to your club potentially. So I will start off with the first one, and possibly the most important one, which are a body called Sport England. Now, some of you might have heard of this body before, some of you might not have done. Sport England is basically the government, but it's an arm's length body, as it says at the top there, of the government, and it's responsible for the health and well-being of the nation, pretty much. They will advise many different organisations on policy. They give out much of the funding, whether it's your local communities that will experience it or national governing bodies such as ourselves. They are the paycheck of the government, pretty much, to keep the nation active, healthy, be it walking, be it organised sport, be it competitive sport. So Sport England are really the national kind of lobbying body for sport, activity, health and well-being within the country. So basically, what they say goes, pretty much. And as I said before, they are the funders of the Find Your Way project, and they did give us some KPIs, some key performance indicators at the start of the Find Your Way project in terms of numbers to try and reach, people engaged, people trained, for example. But within the last 2 years, just after we started the Find Your Way project, they had an organisational change. They had a shift in mentality where they are, as they say themselves, less transactional. They are less bothered about numbers and they're more bothered about the so what's. So whenever we report back to Sport England, which we do as a national governing body every 6 months, on the progress of the sport, what we're doing to try and affect our sport, how we're trying to get more people involved in the sport, they are less likely to ask us numbers. In fact, they don't ask us numbers anymore. They ask us about impact and the so what's. What are we doing? What effect has it had, should I say, and what effect will it have in the future? So this mind-boggling slide is me trying to decipher as easy as I can what happens, who tells us, and how we work from there. And I've just noticed a couple of pictures haven't loaded here, but the picture where my cursor is there is the Youth Sports Trust, and I'll come on to that in a second. So as I've just mentioned, the government and the DCMS, so the department, should I say, for culture, media and sport, they are the ultimate top dogs. They decide on policy, obviously through the Parliament, etc. And this gets delivered into the body, which is Sport England. So yellow arrow here is delivery and research, and the blue arrow here kind of tries to decipher the policy and or the funding that goes. So Sport England, as I will explain in a second, dish out all of this money to these people, and in return give back to the government delivery, research, policy, suggested things to change nationally, which then feed back into us. So it's Sport England that are the influential body for us as a national governing body. The government obviously fund the NHS. Again, money goes into that. Delivery and research will go back, and vice versa. These also feed into active partnerships, and active partnerships are the key community-based people that you can have connections to with your club, which I'll explain within the next couple of slides. But these now are the main people that you will work with or hope to work with for your club on a local level. As I said here, that the pitch hasn't loaded, but the picture that was here was the Youth Sports Trust. Now, the Youth Sports Trust, you may have heard of, they are responsible for things like the school games. So that's the getting the children competitive in sport nationally. It could be intra, it could be inter, which just means within schools or against each other's schools. And they have kind of a two-pronged approach in terms of competitive sport and also just getting children involved in competition. And they have a very rounded view of that, and they have key principles within the school games, such as children learning about resilience, passion, respect, you name it. They are not funded directly by the government. They are a separate charity. So getting back to our active partnerships, you may have heard of some active partnerships, and I'll go through these in the next couple of slides. These pretty much are the people that dissipate the funding and the policy on a local level. Wind back 20 years when I first started in my sporting profession, you may have heard of these as sports development staff. So that's basically what sports development is these days. They are now called active partnerships. They're spread throughout England. They do have some in Scotland and Wales. They come under a different name and they will still work the same. So basically the government gives the Sport England the money with some guidance of how they want it to be spent, the results that they want from the money. Sport England put that into policy, give it to active partnerships, which are in each borough. Some cover a couple of boroughs, but they're in each borough. And it's the active partnerships which then dissipate the money. They are the boots on the ground pretty much. So they will have staff, they work with community groups, and they're the ones that are engaging the local schools, the local community groups. They're the ones that are putting on interventions which you may have heard of, such as holiday and food groups. They're the ones that are doing the community groups where they might be getting Muslim women cycling and all that kind of thing. So anything that you see within your community, more than likely, it's the active partnerships that are driving it. And within that, they work very closely with the NHS to deliver something that what they call social prescribing groups, which are, well, I was going to say the buzzword right now, but it's what the NHS and the local GPs are trying to keep people out of the surgeries. So social prescribing is used to try and get people fit and healthy and avoid the need to be going into GPs, and to try and kind of make people better and keep them healthy and active through exercise and through activity. So these active partnerships, and there are 43 of them around England, these have been the utmost key partnerships that we have found within our national governing body in the past 3 years. They are influential, they are widespreading, but more importantly, they have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the amount of staff that we do have as a national governing body. And the great thing that they have as well is they have their local roots into communities. As I mentioned on the previous slide, they will have groups, whether it's walking groups, whether it's groups for loneliness, whether it's mental health groups, whether it's local running groups. They will basically know everyone that's running an activity group. They will, and I'll get through to this on the next few slides, they will have school games officers within schools. They are literally your club's link into every single community sports club that is funded by the government that you can meet. And so, as I mentioned at the start, with the Find Your Way project, there have been so many clubs, my own club, myself, Pendle Forest Orienteers, we've worked with Active Lancashire. There have been so many clubs that have been working in the southeast, the part of Kent, Active Kent and Medway. The clubs that we have found that have been most successful in the Find Your Way project have developed fantastic links with the active partnerships. And it's not that difficult to make these connections with the active partnerships because we're both singing off the same hymn sheet. They are looking for people, they're looking for deliverers such as ourselves and our clubs, people to deliver activities, and we can deliver. You know, we've got the activities, we've got the sport. So basically you go to them and tell them you've got a product. They come to you and tell them they've got a community, and that's where we've seen the cohesion kind of grow between ourselves and active partnerships. The website at the bottom, activepartnerships.org.uk, explains everything you need to know about the active partnerships, and you can pop in your postcode and it'll bring up the active partnership that is relative to your county. As it says in the middle paragraph, they support local grassroots sport, which is ourselves, which is our club's physical activity and the health of the local population. It's the active partnership's job to get their local population out, moving and active. And if we can do that through orienteering and into local green spaces, then even better, because at the moment, the biggest push and the biggest drive from active partnerships and where the funding goes to local community groups and clubs like our own is getting people out into nature, improving the mental health and into local green spaces, something which our sport does, you know, and it's just in its natural form. So with the active partnerships, as I said, they are the boots on the ground. They are responsible for many of the summits that you might have seen that we've been to recently, a lot of the outreach work that we've done recently. So you may have seen that we've been to stuff like the Commonwealth Games last year. That was through Sport Birmingham, which is an active partnership. You may have seen that we've worked with separate things with the Youth Sports Trust, for example. They work very closely with active partnerships. Active partnerships are forever on the lookout to work with locally trusted clubs like our own, and they are always on the lookout to help promote and share your local activities, basically anything that their community can do to get out, get active and get healthy. In addition to all of this, the active partnerships have local funding opportunities, and as I said, their funding comes from Sport England, and it's up to the active partnerships on the whole to dissipate this funding where they think is best. So you can get funding direct from Sport England, and I'll go into that on one of the final slides. But your best way to get local funding is through an active partnership, and there are different pots of money, but you can get from Sport England anything up to £15,000. From active partnerships, you can get really anything from up to maybe about £5,000 for a project or an idea or a series of activities that you can demonstrate will get people out and active. And at the moment, they're currently kind of their buzzwords and their kind of key focus group are mostly around women and girls. So you may have seen a lot of in the news recently about getting women and girls active, giving women and girls the confidence to be active. You know, sometimes women and girls, the policies have found, the research, should I say, have found that they aren't confident in local spaces. They aren't confident, you know, in exploring local spaces. Well, orienteering is absolutely perfect for that, for giving women and girls confidence in understanding, you know, where they are, navigation, you know, resilience, all of those kind of skills. The second one, LSEG, just means low social economic groups, which just means areas, you know, that a class in the poverty scale, for want of a better word, but, you know, areas that are less affluent. They're obviously, you know, there's obviously been a lot of research that's been done between the correlation between these areas and the local health of the population that live within these areas. And so there's a lot of funding that if you can demonstrate that, you know, if your park, you know, if you've got a permanent orienteering course or a series of map run within parks that are in these areas, you know, you could also put in for funding to, you know, create a series of come and try it events or, you know, activities for these groups as well. And BAME, which, you know, Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups. So That's not exclusive, but that's just me kind of like giving you a heads up that if you will more than likely be successful in kind of reaching out to active partnerships if you and your club could come up with something that could benefit with these. And one of the biggest things, and I mentioned it before, the school holiday group. So every active partnership has a holiday activities and food groups, and these are aimed to keep children that receive free school meals healthy, active and fed within school holidays. They're mostly run over the summer holidays, but in some areas, they're also in the October holidays and the Easter holidays. And what we've experienced with a lot of clubs in the Find Your Way project is that we've been putting on free come and try it events or map run activities, for example, for these holiday activity and food groups, because they're always crying out for activities to do and local providers to come in. And again, you would just have to search holiday activities and food, pop in your area, pop in your postcode, and it should bring up the local group that's responsible for that. As you can see on mine, it was burnleygov.uk, which is linked in with Active Lancashire. So, as I mentioned before, the active partnerships and the school games organisers are very much intralinked. These school game organisers, or SGOs as they are known, they are usually a secondary PE teacher, but not exclusively, but they usually are a secondary PE teacher that have been funded a day or two a week out of teaching to encourage their local cohort of primary schools to get active, to get involved in competitions, and again both intra and inter school, so within their own school and against other schools, to help build the skills that I mentioned before. There's about 450 around the UK. They're named differently in Scotland, but the role's exactly the same. And these are the people that at this time of year, they are forever kind of emailing clubs such as my own, which is fantastic, to put on local school competitions, the typical orienteering summer competitions, etc. And it's these guys that work tirelessly throughout the year to deliver all kinds of sports to all kinds of children. And these, again, have moved in the last maybe 5 years. These have moved probably from just being competition driven and excellence driven. Definitely when I was a primary school teacher, it was, you always took your best kids to the competitions, and it was always the same 8 kids that you took. Definitely I took anyway, to the football, the rounders, you name it. And these days school games organisers are much more about as many children experiencing as many sports as they can. And the least known sports, the better with school games organisers these days. They will always have football competitions. They will always have netball competitions. But these days, there's a real rise in stuff like orienteering and the interest in orienteering, ultimate frisbee, sports like that, dodgeball, sports that, children that, I'm not saying that they only either like football or orienteering, but those children that may never have made a football team or a netball team, something to give those children a different way to experience activity and enjoy activity. And these guys and the school games organisers, they work with the Youth Sports Trust, which I mentioned before, the charity for children in youth sport pretty much in the UK. And they deliver school games activities, as I've mentioned. And within that, schools and educational settings can apply for the school games mark. And this is where it kind of is important for our clubs as well, because for the school games mark, schools have to succeed with certain criteria. They have to attend a certain amount of competitions. They have to attend a certain amount of SEN competitions per year, for example. But one of the important things that schools have to have, even to achieve the bronze level, which is the lowest level that schools can achieve, is they have to have a notice board within the school that lists all of the clubs and all of the sports that they know about. And this is the important thing. And it's fantastic that, my school back in the day, we used to list the local football club, and we used to list, the local netball club and the rugby club and how they could get involved. We never listed the local orienteering club, partly because we didn't know about them. I didn't know much about the sport before taking it up in 2019. And that's where kind of you as a club have got a real opportunity to get your club you know, and a poster, for example, and some information about the sport onto the school's notice board, because pretty much every school goes for the school games mark, and every school will have a school notice board, and it's these guys that can get your information on there. And this is an interesting stat that we found out. We get data sent from the Youth Sports Trust. We had 29,000 registered children and young people orienteering in only school games organised competitions last year. So these are the competitions that school games organisers are putting on yourselves, you know, and how many actually did we know about? You know, less than a tenth of them probably did our clubs deliver. So there's an obvious real desire that, you know, orienteering is wanting to be taught, is wanting to be delivered as a competition. You know, you can imagine the figure in 5 years' time, maybe, hopefully, of that being delivered with everyone working together. So just a few last points about school games organisers. You can find out your local school games organiser by asking your local school. Every single school will be assigned a school games officer, or you can ask your active partnership. More than likely, you might be in touch with them already. You might be delivering summer competitions for them. If not, as the second point says, you can ask to deliver the school games orienteering competition. Working as I have done with clubs and taking this approach, 9 times out of 10, they will bite your hand off, because, as we both know, orienteering isn't the easiest sport to deliver if you're not confident in teaching it yourself. So if you have a local club that can say to you, listen, Tuesday afternoon, I can put on a score course, I can put on 2 white courses, we're happy to do that, you will be accepted. And that, we have found, is a great opportunity to not only introduce the sport properly to children. You know, I'm not saying that they do a bad job, but us as clubs, you know, we know the sport better a lot of the time. But it's also a great opportunity, we found, to give out handouts, event flyers, some more information. So what we do in my local club at PFO with, you know, with Rosendale School Sports Partnership, with Burnley School Sports Partnership, is we have the map, and on the reverse of the map, every child gets to keep their own map. We have our school, we have our club information on it. So we just have a little bit on orienteering, how they can find out more. And what we put on the back of it as well is some local permanent orienteering courses, some local map run courses that they can try, and the upcoming events, so that at least the child's got something to take home with them afterwards. Every single school games organiser will send out a termly school newsletter. They are always desperate for content. With the Burnley School Sports Partnership and the Rosendale School Sports Partnership, I just send them our events at the start of every term, you know, every 6 weeks, every 7-8 weeks. If I don't, I'll get an email asking me to, and we just pop it in there. We pop in a little bit about what we've been up to, but more importantly, you know, the events that we've got going on. As I mentioned before about the school notice board, it's a great opportunity to get your information up on there. And the last one, the school holiday competitions. This is something that we've started with the Find Your Way project, and something that we're really taking on board this summer is school holiday competitions. So what we have found is that the school sports partnerships absolutely love, and school sports partnerships are what the school games organisers are a part of. They absolutely love the concept of map runs. They love the concept that they could have a 6-week summer holiday competition, and it's a real light touch for them because the map runs are already created. You know, it might be in a park that's local to 3 or 4 schools. And the way that we've done it as a local club at PFO is that this year we're doing it as Burnley School Sports Partnership versus Rosendale School Sports Partnership, and all of the schools within Burnley and all of the schools in Rosendale will be competing against each other to try and complete, should I say, as many map runs as they can over the school holidays. So as a club, we've made sure that there's 5 in Rosendale map runs and there's 5 in Burnley. They're obviously allowed to go out and do as many as they can all around the country. And what we've done is we have been given a list of the schools, primary schools this is, in Burnley and in Rosendale. We've put a 3-letter code against their names. So for example, Water Primary School, a WPS, and it'll just be pupil 1 WPS, and we'll be able to see from the results how many children have done how many courses, and at the end of the summer holidays we'll have a prize for the school and the individual that does the most. And for a school games organizer, all they've had to do is promote it. which is easy through the, their social media channels and their newsletter. And they've had to give us a list of the school names. And within that, they can tick off a box, hopefully, at the end of the summer holidays, that 600 people have been active. They've done so many map run courses. So that's just something where you can think outside the box. And again, you approach your school games organizer with that, and you will very unlikely be turned away with something like that. And again, I can give any advice, any learnings that we've had with our competitions across there too. So something that you may have heard of, again, you might not have heard of again, is something called Beat the Street. So Beat the Street has really took off in the last few years. That's funded jointly by National Lottery and again by Sport England. It's by, I don't want to say a company, but a group called Intelligent Health with Dr. William Bird, who's done a lot of research throughout his career on activity levels, how activity levels affect development, and mainly in the youth sector. And he was the guy that's developed Beat the Street. So Beat the Street was a massive catalyst for my local club to get involved with the active partnership. We didn't know anything about Pendle Forest. We didn't know anything about Beat the Street when it first arrived in Burnley. That was November 2021. And we saw the back end of it on a Facebook post in a random Facebook group, saw it, tried it for club night, and realised that actually it was just orienteering. So from that, we reached out to the person that was in charge of Beat the Street for Burnley. They're an engagement coordinator. They work for the active partnership. And that was how our relationship developed with the active partnership, because we basically went to them and said, hello, we think that this is orienteering. They agreed with us, and we started working together from them. So what Beat the Street is, it's a 6-week game. And I say it's a game, but yes, it's aimed at children. I don't want to say it's aimed at children, but there's prizes for all age groups. But the aim is to get communities to get more active. And what they have to do is they visit beat boxes. It's a shame that this picture hasn't loaded, unfortunately, because it shows you a picture of a beat box attached to a lamppost. So there are, well, in Burnley anyway, there were 100 beat boxes, they call them, in different locations all around Burnley. They are electric. They are very expensive. And each beat box is worth 10 points. You get given a card. Everything's free. It doesn't cost anything. It costs the local council and local authorities a lot of money, but it doesn't cost the participant anything. And basically, you've got 6 weeks to visit as many beat boxes as you can, as many times as you can, trying to create as many points as you can. You can do it individually. You can do it as part of a school. You can do it as part of a club. My local club got involved in the last one that was 12 months ago, and we won the team. We won something else, and we managed to get £600 worth of decathlon vouchers for our club. So not only is it a great tool to get in with the active partnership, it's a great tool for your local orienteering club as well if you want some decathlon vouchers. But they are delivered by active partnerships. What they will do is they will use one of their staff as an engagement coordinator for 6 months. So even though the game's only 6 weeks long, they will work 3 months before the game and 3 months after the game, pretty much there or thereabouts, to try and raise the profile of Beat the Street, say that it's coming, get some excitement going. But the post-game thing is the thing that's most important, really. And they work on something called legacy of the game. And this is where orienteering clubs can come into their own with the legacy of it. So Beat the Street has took off massively. We didn't have much of a relationship with Beat the Street a few years ago. We worked very much in silos. And I reached out to Beat the Street a couple of years ago and said exactly what I've said to you. It's orienteering by stealth. We want to work more closely. Us as a national governing body, we didn't know when it was going into areas. We couldn't tell local clubs it's going into your area. This is a heads up that it's happening. And now we have a great relationship with Beat the Street. 9 times out of 10, we'll be aware of areas that it's going into, and we can share those details with local clubs to give them a heads up. This has been immensely important for my local club in terms of raising awareness within the communities, mostly through the legacy work. So within Beat the Street, you've got 6 weeks. There has been a few come and try events from Pendle Forest, and what happens is Beat the Street will bring in what they call a mobile beatbox. So anyone that's coming to the event will be able to scan the card on the beat box, they get more points for attending the Come and Try It event, for example. But one of the biggest things is that they have, and I'm not going to be shy about saying this, they have a lot of funding. And within their legacy funding, they have paid, not just for my own clubs, but for other clubs that have got involved around the UK, they have paid for many permanent orienteering courses to be installed, both with NFC chip cards behind to turn them into digital map run courses. They have paid for quite a lot of the A2 signs that you're seeing popping up in parks these days, advertising orienteering. You can do the POC in this park, for example. And what they have done is they have driven a lot of family awareness to the club. They are very, very prominent on social media when it's in the area. And what clubs have done, and especially BKO in Reading, BKO, for example, have done a fantastic couple of follow-on map runs. So they've mapped all of where the beat boxes have been, turned them into map runs. And so now Beat the Street's finished in Reading, but now Beat the Street can say, listen, the beat boxes are still there. You can do map runs, this, that, and the other. So it's been a great kind of blend into our sport from people that probably would never try it before. But all of a sudden we can go to people now and say, listen, you've loved Beat the Street. All you've been doing is orienteering. Come and try it with us. And that's been massive, really. So you can see the beat box there attached to the street, to the lamppost. They give out thousands of cards. You're able to pick them up from certain community hubs. Asda, for example, they give out free maps to the community. And as I said, they mostly target this in primary schools. Every single primary school within a locality of where the Beat the Street is happening, every single child is given a card. Every single child is given a map. Whether they want to take part or not is entirely up to them. But these are the statistics from the Burnley game from May last year. And these are unique participants. So just in Burnley alone, there were over 12,000 people of all ages taking part in Beat the Street. And wouldn't that be amazing if all of those people at least had an awareness of the sport? And as you can see there, in 6 weeks, there was almost 160,000 miles covered in Burnley. Mostly my club covered them, I'm joking. But we were seeing all ages, you know, out on bikes, out running, wheeling, you name it. And the great thing about Beat the Street is that they do certain promotions. So last year they were doing from 5 till 7 o'clock in the morning. You got double points because that was commuter hour, trying to engage adults doing it. So, you know, you'd see many people, many of my club members running up between the two lampposts that were 500 meters apart, trying to get as many points. It's just madness, but it's a great game and it's a great initiative to be part of. So if you are interested in knowing more about that and learning if areas are coming, if the game's coming to areas of your club, then I can happily put you in contact with the relevant people at Beat the Street. And again, it costs nothing for your club to be involved, you know, and it's a great initiative and it's a great way potentially to earn some decathlon vouchers too. So last couple of slides. This, I think, is probably, you know, just a few kind of good tips, hopefully, that we found as well. And again, it's not exclusive, but we have found in the last 12 months, you know, working with people such as local running shops. You know, we've got some great local running shops. One of the most prominent kind of running shops that we've worked with in the last 12 months are Up and Running, as you can see in the background there. And Up and Running have a social club that runs mostly every Wednesday evening. Some areas differ, but they will be a social club that do about 5k, sometimes a bit longer. They're very laid back. They go to and from the store. And what a lot of our clubs have worked with is just putting on a simple map run course, starting and finishing from the Up and Running store. We have got great links with Up and Running, both as a company and at local level with different shops. And we have yet to have the answer of no when we've gone to them and said, are you interested in doing a takeover club night? And pretty much the response has been fantastic. We've done some recently in Oldham, and there's some others that are lined up in other parts of the country too. What has been great with Up and Running and with our local links recently is that they have many affiliate links with other brands. So, for example, at our Oldham Up and Running kind of activation a few months ago, Silver came along and tested head torches. It was just before winter had set in this one. So Silver brought some head torches to try. Ultra brought some trainers along to try. And so it kind of like added value to the evening. And it's just a great way of introducing the sport to people that may never have heard of it. And it's in their comfort zone because it's areas that they should know because they run around it every week. It's to and from the shop that they're used to. It's with the group that they're used to. And the clubs have just done maybe like a simple 5K linear map run course with maybe 6 controls, nothing too complicated. Let them go out in pairs, you name it. And it's been a great way to kind of take the sport to people. And Up and Running aren't the only shops there. You will find that many of the local running shops will have a social running club. Many of the, I don't know what this says about the area that I live in, but many of the bars have running clubs where I live. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I know that there's a local bar to me that has a Wednesday night running club. We've done the same at PFO. We've done a Street-O, a proper Street-O event that started and finished from there. We've gained some people that have joined eventually as members from that club, simply from us going to them saying, let us have an evening, try it out. And it really does work. And Couch to 5K as well, you know, they are always meeting at local tracks to me. And I've reached out to them and said, you know, as part of your graduation or as part of the week before your graduation, would you be interested in trying out a map run or coming to our Street-O? You know, and we've had people that have come there, and, you know, the biggest question that we've had, and the biggest question that we have when we do these activations, such as the National Expo or the Lincolnshire show, is, can I walk? You know, and I think people sometimes forget that, you know, our sport is, you know, for any ability. You know, you don't have to be a fantastic runner or a fantastic navigator. And that's the biggest question that we have. And that was the biggest question that we had with Couch to 5K as well, is, can I walk? And it's like, absolutely. Yep. So the main thing I think with this, and as I'll get to on just one of my final slides in a second, is to just be bold. These shops, such as Up and Running, for example, and a lot of other local shops and a lot of branded shops, Decathlon, the large shops that you might not think work on a local level, they really do. And if you don't ask, you don't get. That's what I've always been taught growing up. And more often than not, they will be happy to sponsor your map printing for the sake of their logo going onto your map, which is really easy to do. You know, invite them along to an event. You might have a larger event that's coming up, you know, that you might get 100, 150, 200 people at. Tell them, you know, they're welcome to have a stall at it, for example. There are different ways of getting shops involved in sponsorship. And I think that's something that clubs are starting to take on board, that, you know, it's not necessarily about the prizes, but it's about kind of like the kudos and the recognition and the brand acceptance that, oh, Up and Running are sponsoring that, so it must be good, so I can go along and try it, for example. And a lot of the times, just for the sake of getting their branding on the map, they might throw you a £20 voucher or a £30 voucher that you can just do as a giveaway, or the winner of, I don't know, a Women 40 event or something. Not that that's my category, but if you don't ask, you don't get. And what we've found recently, that we've asked and we've got, and there is kind of sponsorship opportunities out there. And the final one, we started this off with Pendle Forest in 2019, and they still go strong these days. And other clubs such as Lakeland, for example, Swansea Bay, create holiday trails through town centres, through village centres. You will find that shops will have your posters in them. You know, what we've done is we've just created simple Halloween posters with a letter on, for example, had the maps, simple Google Maps, available to pick up from local markets or from a local library. Shops will accept it because they love people looking in the store window. They love people visiting their shop that they might not have visited. So that's another way to engage the community as well. So, penultimate slide, I promise you. As I said at the start, Sport England not only fund ourselves and other national governing bodies and other kind of larger projects, they also support grassroots organisers, as it says there. And they do this through a few different ways. They can give you funding, and it can also give you guidance and kind of walkthroughs, and that's through stuff such as SIMSPA and other kind of advisory bodies. You can download resources and how-to guides, how to reach out to certain communities, how to finance your club, for example. So I would recommend going on the Sport England website and just having a look round. The biggest thing that you can access as a club, we can't access as a national governing body, but you can access as a local club, is something called the Movement Fund. And this was a fund launched in April 2024. It's a multi-million pound fund, over 120 odd million pound, if memory serves me right. And this is designed for local organisations and clubs such as your own to access up to £15,000. And again, the second box at the bottom there just gives examples of not exclusively what they will fund for, but what you are likely to be accepted for, such as people living on low incomes, disabled people, people with long-term health conditions, girls aged 5 to 16, you name it. So the Movement Fund is there for getting people, as it says here, more people, more active, and reducing the number of inactive people. So if you can put together, and as a national governing body, we can support you in this. If you can put together a funding bid towards Sport England, saying, we propose to do this, we propose to hit, and you can manage to pick out a couple of kind of their key priority groups, and you're expecting to get them active by doing so and so and so, then it's likely that you will get support from the Movement Fund. You possibly won't get £15,000, but you could get £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 to deliver a summer series of interventions, activities, to put in a certain number of permanent orienteering courses and deliver how to navigate around them to a certain group of people, for example. And again, like I said, we can give you advice on this if this is something that your club are interested in. And the final slide, you will be pleased to know. So as I've said before, be bold, like don't be afraid to ask whether it's active partnerships, whether it's local sponsorship opportunities, whether it's popping into local shops and saying, listen, I've got this idea for a Halloween trail. Would you be happy putting a poster in your windows? If you don't ask, you don't get. So be bold. Take the time to do some research. Active partnerships website. So the website that I put on at the start, where you can search your local active partnership. Within there, there'll be a plethora of information on people, their job roles, what their priorities are, what their strategic aims are. And I know that sounds a bit wordy, but you will learn that they're trying to get this cohort of group moving. So if you can go to them and say, we can work with this, you're more than likely to hit the right person. And very much when I was starting the Find Your Way project, I was sending out a whole load of emails to people, and that's what just got me kind of connected with people, because 90% of them will reply to you, and if they don't help you, they will know someone who does help you or whose role it is to help you. So take the time to do some research on those people within your local communities that are part of the active partnerships. What I did with the emails was I wrote a few different template ones, obviously adjusted it to save yourself time, to send out to people, because you want to try and hit a lot of people. And I think the important thing that we found with local authorities, with councils, with active partnerships, is to keep them succinct. That's not just to say to keep them a two-liner, but they obviously have their own priorities. And if you can highlight how orienteering and your club can solve a problem that they have, such as inactivity, such as getting more people into local green spaces, and how you can bring added value to them. It's low cost, for example, anytime orienteering, it's flexible. A lot of families and a lot of people these days are time poor. Well, map runs you can access any time of the day, and they're free to access and they're easy to access, and they don't use data. So if you can keep it succinct but with the benefits, you will have them replying to you, and you will have them asking more. And the last bit is the FOMO, so the fear of missing out. And what we found is that once one active partnership takes something on board, another active partnership will take it on board, and another active partnership will then ask you why they've took it on board and you haven't contacted them yet. So, and the same goes with local running groups, etc. It's just a case of keep on keeping on. They are there for your benefit as well. And as I said at the start, I know I've banged on a bit, but they are critical. We found them critical. Active partnerships, local authorities, councils, we found them critical to being able to reach out to community groups that we've never been able to before, because they are trusted by the community. Somebody sees something delivered by Active Lancashire, or somebody sees something promoted by Active Kent and Medway, they are more than likely to read it. They are more than likely to head along than something promoted by Pendle Forest or Saxons. And that's nothing against, you know, our two clubs. It's just that they are the locally trusted source, and they're what your communities are used to seeing, and they're used to putting on community activities, for example, and you just got to go in through the back door, deliver it, and then people will come to you. So yes, so I think that is me. So I will stop sharing. And I think, is there anybody left, Joe, or have I got rid of everybody?
We still have plenty of people here, don't you worry. And the chat has been busy as well. Howard's been working hard in the background to provide a lot of links and replies as well. I'll go sort of from the top down, so it may be a bit chronological earlier for the questions. As always, if you have a question and you'd like to ask it live, I'll be working through the chat, but you can use the raise hand function and I'll call upon you to unmute. The first one was Ian asking, how do we find out if there are similar active partnerships and school games organisers in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and Beat the Street as well?
Yeah, so it's just a case of Googling it. They're exactly the same, they just come under different names. Sport England funding, as the name says on the tin, is purely for projects that are within England. However, you will find there's plenty of money for other regions of the UK. Again, just a case of Googling it, or I can give you further information away from this. Beat the Street is UK based, so Beat the Street is very often in Scotland and Northern Ireland, for example. So Beat the Street is across the UK. And again, I can share information on finding out more about that on a further email, Joe.
Brilliant. And Howard's put in the link to the Sport Scotland Active Schools page as well. I'll make sure to collate all the links that Howard's been putting in as well, and get everything organised onto tomorrow's email as well, just for some more information. I know Catherine was also interested in that one. So that's good news to hear. I can see Terry with a hand up, so I'll come to you quickly, Terry, if you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
All right, thank you. Map run. Have you had any issues, given that some of the things you've talked about are focused on people from deprived areas and young kids, in having smartphones, and how have you overcome any issues there?
Not necessarily, to be honest with you. I think the great thing about MapRun is you can download the map, obviously, over Wi-Fi, for example. Especially if you kind of take heed with where maybe your community base is. If you're doing a come and try activity, it might be within a local library. It might start from like a local community centre where there is access to data. And obviously when you're using the app, it doesn't use any data itself. But what we do to kind of mitigate as best we can is we also print off paper maps. We leave them within libraries and, you know, within different community centres, for example, so that though it's not perfect, you know, they can still take a map around with them. So not overly, to be honest with you. I think the great thing about what clubs have done and what we've done is try and give people as much pre-information as we can, so that we say that this is happening. It'd be great if you could download the MapRun app before you come over, you know, over Wi-Fi. These are local places that you can access Wi-Fi, so that people don't necessarily turn up and have to download there and then. So if they can come pre-armed with the MapRun app and they have the map downloaded onto it, then data, for example, when they're out there, you know, it doesn't use any data there. So it's not perfect, but those are the kind of like those are the advice that we've given to people as best we can.
Okay, so my takeaway from that, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're assuming that the kids and those in deprived areas have smartphones.
Yeah, but I think these days, I'm not going to say that they do, but the majority do, or they turn up with families that do, you know, and the amount of children these days that have access to stuff like TikTok and X and Facebook, etc. You know, I think these days they do, but I think what's important is that we don't just get carried away that map run activities are the only way to connect with communities, and come and try it days, you know, they're a different way to connect. But you know, putting on a simple white or putting on a simple yellow course or a string course or a maze is equally as effective, you know, and can reach out to the community as well. So it's not the only way into these communities.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Unfortunately, my connection dropped out through the latter part of your answer, but I think I got the gist from the first part. Thank you.
I'll make sure to pop a quick timestamp in the video for you, Terry, but I'm sure Kate will follow up with you as well. I'll just quickly move on to the other couples. So Ian was asking about the saying that some of it was for schools and whether there was any for active partnerships targeted at adults. And
yeah,
Howard's linked up the clubs and communities framework from Sport Scotland as well.
Yeah, with the maybe addressing a little bit of confusion then. Active partnerships they're concerned with all ages, whether it's children or adults, for example. So active partnerships will definitely be targeted at adults and adolescents and children. They are the kind of overseeing sports development and health body for your local region. And within that, it encompasses children's health and activity, adults' health and activity. So the school games organisers, for example, they will work on behalf of the active partnership to deliver within the schools. But active partnerships also will have development officers and other roles that purely work on getting adults active. So active partnerships definitely are targeted across all age groups.
Excellent. And Catherine asked whether presumably the movement fund is just for England. And Howard has popped in the Howard has helpfully popped in the Sport Scotland link for funding as well, with a lot of links on there as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I think without any extra hands up, I'll just do a quick check of the Q&A. I think that is okay. Just a brief mention, Terry had the question for Alex earlier about who to contact for updating documents that have got lost on the website. And I just wanted to highlight, for the sake of everybody, that the email address for that is info@britishorienteering.org.uk, which is mentioned on Alex's slides. And we'll be sharing both the presentations with you in the email that should be coming over to you tomorrow, as well as the link to the video, for if you enjoyed the session so much that you'd like to watch it again tomorrow, or even refer to it back a little further later in the future as well. But based on that, I'll bring the session to a close. So first of all, a huge thank you to both Kate and Alex for the hugely informative session. It's really good to be able to have everybody on board and see the new things that we're doing, and also some of the great work in the community. I know that there'll be some good conversation sparked from this as well. I think he has just popped in the chat that it'll be good for a follow-up as well. So I'll also make sure to pop links to everybody's emails as well, Alex and Kay, as well as the general addresses for all the further discussions to be held. So a huge thank you to you both. Thank you to everybody else for attending this evening. It's really good to have you here, and we really appreciate the time that you take as always. So without anything else, thank you very much for attending, and have a good evening.